It was 3 in the morning, and there was an eerie silence in the apartment, broken only by the constant hum of the old refrigerator and the occasional dull thud of a car on the road outside. 17-year-old Maya was hunched over the kitchen table, a yellow highlighter lying motionless on an open chemistry textbook in front of her. Her foot was gently rocking the nearby swing where her 6-month-old son Leo was soundlessly sleeping. The fluorescent light in the kitchen flickered, making the words on the pages of the book dance. The air smelled of baby powder and a faint disinfectant. Diagrams of chemical bonds blurred before her eyes, and her eyelids grew heavier with each passing minute. Tomorrow was her midterm exam, an exam that could determine her future, or so her teachers said. But the future was a luxury Maya didn't have time to think about. One moment her mind was thinking about covalent bonds, and the next she was calculating how long the last pack of diapers would last. Her mind worked like an Excel spreadsheet, with formulas and equations in one column, and grocery lists and doctor's appointment dates in another. She took a deep breath, feeling the fatigue sinking into her bones. She looked at her son, his small chest rising and falling with each breath. He was calm, safe. In that one moment, chemistry grades, sleep deprivation, and worries about bills all became meaningless. Statistically, Maya was part of a story that was becoming increasingly rare in America. She was a teenage mother, part of a population that had shrunk dramatically in the past few decades. But on that dimly lit night, she wasn't a statistic. She was just Maya, at once a student dreaming of a better future and the center of her child's world. And her story could help answer the questions so many were asking. Why is teen pregnancy rates falling in America? The answer was far more complex and personal than statistics. The next morning, Maya was awakened by Leo's cries as the sun rose. She turned off the alarm before it went off, a routine she had become accustomed to. After giving Leo a feeder, she was in the kitchen making herself coffee when she noticed an old photograph on the fridge. In the picture, her mother, Sarah, was smiling. She was 17, just like Maya, but there was a different kind of sparkle in her eyes, a sparkle that was laced with fear and uncertainty. In the picture, Sarah was flanked by a small child, Maya herself. Sarah's story was very different from Maya's. When Sarah found out she was pregnant in the late 1990s, it felt like her world had ended. At the time, teenage pregnancy was seen as a scandal and a personal failure. Her school had no support program, no sympathetic teacher who could email her homework, and no flexible system that would allow a young mother to continue her education. She was forced to drop out of school, and her dreams of a bright future were shattered overnight. Sarah often told Maya how limited access to information was at that time. Sex education classrooms emphasized abstinence and provided little or no information about birth control methods. The internet was still in its infancy, and reliable information was almost impossible to find. It was embarrassing to talk to a doctor, and even friends had only hearsay. Sarah and her friends were living in an information vacuum where rumors dominated facts. It was a toxic mix of shame and ignorance that changed the lives of many young girls forever. Maya, in contrast, grew up in a different world. Although it wasn't easy for her to be a young mother, she had resources. Her school offered an online program, which allowed her to continue her classes. She had a school counselor who connected her with local nonprofits that helped young mothers with diapers, formula, and even childcare. The biggest difference was access to information. With a click of her phone, Maya had access to information from all over the world. She could learn all about birth control methods, their pros and cons, and where to get them. Social media allowed for open discussion of topics that were considered taboo. Hashtags like Teen Mom, while highlighting the challenges of this life, also provided these girls with a community where they didn't feel alone. Looking at the picture on the fridge, Maya realized that she wasn't just fighting her own battle, she was also fulfilling her mother's unfulfilled dreams. The barriers that Sarah's generation had faced were slowly breaking down. Better access to education, technology, and healthcare enabled young people to make informed decisions about their bodies and their futures. The decline in the statistics wasn't just numbers. It was the reflection of the sacrifices made by millions of women like Sarah and the new opportunities created for girls like Maya. It was a story of two generations witnessing the changing social landscape in America. After school, Maya was walking to her school counselor, Miss Diaz, with her son Leo and a stroller. The weekly meeting had become an essential part of her life. Miss Diaz, who was in her 50s and always had a friendly smile on her face, had seen with her own eyes the days when girls like Maya were turned away from school at the door. "How are you, Maya?" Miss Diaz asked warmly and smiled at Leo. "And how is this little champion?" Maya replied with a tired smile. "We're fine, just getting by. The chemistry test was really tough, but I think I did a good job." "I'm proud of you. 20 years ago, if a girl in your position had been there, she wouldn't have had the chance to take the test. She would have had to sneak out of school." Their conversation often veered between the past and the present. Ms. Diaz told Maya about the changes she had seen during her career. She described how schools had moved away from a shaming and punishing policy to a supporting and empowering model. It wasn't just a policy change, it was a mindset shift. A big reason for this was improved sex education programs. Maya remembered how different her health class had been. Her mother, Sarah, had only been taught about abstinence as if it were the only way to avoid pregnancy. But Maya's class provided science-based, comprehensive information. It covered not just abstinence, but all types of birth control, from condoms to the pill to long-acting reversible contraceptives like IUDs and implants. The discussions were open and nonpartisan, aimed at equipping young people with the knowledge to make decisions, not intimidate them. Ms. Diaz explained, "The biggest change has been access to LARCs. Previously, they were considered only for married women, but now organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics are calling them the first and best choice for young people. They're like insert and forget, which reduces the possibility of human error." Access to healthcare was also a key factor. There was a clinic downtown that offered confidential and affordable services to young people. Maya had gone there for information before she became pregnant. She remembered how friendly and helpful the staff there was. No one judged or lectured her, they just answered her questions. Policies like the Affordable Care Act also gave millions of young people free access to contraceptives through insurance, removing financial barriers. But it wasn't just formal programs. There was also a shift in society. MTV shows like 16 and Pregnant and Teen Mom were controversial, but they did one thing. They sparked a national conversation about the topic. The shows exposed the harsh realities of teen parenthood, sleep deprivation, financial hardship, and social isolation. For many young people, it was a wake-up call. They saw how difficult it was to raise a child, and it encouraged them to be more careful. Miss Diaz concluded by saying, "It's not one thing, Maya. It's an entire ecosystem. Better education, accessible and affordable healthcare, open dialogue in the media, and support for students like you in schools. All of this adds up to an environment where young girls have more control over their futures." Maya left the office feeling stronger than ever. She knew her path wasn't easy, but she wasn't alone. There was a web of support around her, a web that had taken decades to build and which was now saving countless girls like her from falling down. The decline in the numbers wasn't just numbers. It was the success story of this integrated system.